Welcome, everyone, to our May LifeWave Business Connect. We're so excited to be here with you today. My name is Gerrit Johnson, and I am the U.S. Country Manager for LifeWave. It's my privilege to be here with you today to be able to talk about a really important topic, which is what we call heart-to-heart sales. This is something where it's very different. We're not, in fact, you could almost argue that we shouldn't even use the term sales when we're talking about what it is that we're doing. But as we get going through this today, I think there's some amazing information that we'll be able to cover and some really best practices in how to be able to help introduce people to the amazing technology that we have here at LifeWave through our patches and our phototherapy. There's so much great things that are happening here right now. We're seeing amazing growth. And we know that that's due to the amazing efforts of our leadership, our field leadership in particular. We're so appreciative of everything that each of you are doing in helping us to build the LifeWave name and getting and sharing it with and blessing the lives of the people that you care about most. Now, today I have a very special guest, someone who's been with LifeWave technically for quite a while, but may not have been super active until more recently. And we'll go into more of those details. I don't want to go into too much detail than that now because we'll jump into that in a little bit. But he is certainly someone with a huge heart, someone who has built a team using the concept that we're going to talk about today, which is that heart-to-heart sales. How do we really connect with people and really help them to feel, the connection that we have as human beings, and so that they actually want to know more about it, not because of anything necessarily about the technology, but because they know who we are and they know our hearts, and we know that we wouldn't be sharing something if it wasn't important. So we'd love to just have everyone, just as you're coming in, just type in to the chat where you're calling in from. Love seeing where everyone's coming from. We know that we have quite an international impact, around the world today. We do have translations that will be available. So if you have any questions or would like to see what's available, you can go down to the translation section as well. But let's go ahead and now bring on our special guest who's been with us, like I say, for a while now, but has really over the last maybe what is it, about four or 5 years, has really had, maybe 6 years, an amazing impact on what the direction and the growth of the company. So Lorenzo, are you there?
I'm here. Let's do it.
Oh, love it. Well, Lorenzo, thank you for being on and being willing to take this time with us today. I know sometimes it can be a little bit stressful. For most people, public speaking is like one of the worst things you could possibly ask them to do. Now, we know that you definitely have some skills here, but but we do appreciate your willingness to come on and to share some minutes, not just with me, but with our LifeWave family.
Thank you very much. And that is important for every single one that is looking at this to understand. This is for you guys. This is for you. I truly believe when you observe what other people have done and it works, apply it. If it doesn't work for you, don't apply it. But this is definitely for them.
Perfect. I love that. As I was looking through your bio, and as we kind of were, and if anyone has had a chance, got the email that talked about it, there's certain things in there that I thought were kind of interesting, and I'd like to kind of dig into a little bit. The first one was that when you first got started and wanted to figure out what am I going to do with my life, you went into engineering. And kind of got your schooling with that. What was kind of but it looks like what was it about engineering that made you kind of how did you feel about it? I guess when you got started.
Well, when I was a kid, I always liked to understand how things work. So I thought engineering was a solution and will give me the answers so every single thing would work. So that's the main reason I got engineering, because I say, when you engineer something, you really create and know how every single thing works. So that was the main reason why I got into electronics engineering.
Love it. Now, it also, you kind of mentioned that maybe it wasn't for you, kind of realized after a little while that it really wasn't for you. What were some of the key elements about it that made you realize, maybe this isn't what I should be doing with my life?
It was great. I enjoyed every single thing of it. But at one point when I got my first job, I got it as a quality assurance with a manufacturing company. And this manufacturing company had a manufacturing plant in Mexico. So I was the quality assurance for them. And one of the things that made me wake up was I would get to the job at 7 in the morning and I would leave at 7, 8 p.m. So sometimes I will not see the sun of that day.
Mm.
So you know what? This is like modern slavery for me. And I want to be part of that. And the other thing that I didn't like, Gerrit, is like I saw with my own eyes how they were really pushing people to produce. I mean, single mothers and young people that they want them to stay overtime, sometimes until the midnight, and they will use techniques that I don't consider ethical to use. And I felt very uncomfortable with that. And at that point, I realized, you know what, I don't want to have a boss, you know?
Mm. I love that. And I think we've all been there, right? I think, you know, some of us have maybe had some good bosses, but we probably all have had some, you know, maybe some bad bosses as well. And certainly using manipulative techniques to get people to stay and work late, especially when they probably should be home helping their kids. You know, that's a tough stance to have. And certainly, hopefully not the type of an environment that we would ever want to foster, especially not within our organizations here. You know, but as you look at that, what was it then that made you kind of, so basically it's from that you kind of made the decision, I'm not sure I want to do this anymore. I want to be my own boss.
Definitely. At that point, I thought that the solution was to have your own business, you know, and I said, okay, with what I know, what needs can I satisfy on the area that I was? And I saw the need of communications. And when I say communication, I'm talking about there was no cell phone coverage in my area.
Okay.
So that could be an opportunity. So I started selling pagers, beepers, two-way radio. And for those new generations, pagers were a little thing that they will give you a number, and then you will go into a payphone, put some quarters, and call that number.
Yeah, I know that all too well. Unfortunately, I'm old enough to know what a pager is as well. Spent many years using one. But yeah, so you got more of the communication side of things. So when you were doing that was running your own business, and kind of how did that look for you as you're trying to build your own business?
You know, it was amazing. It was amazing. Well, it was a game, and I on my own opinion, when things are a game for you, it's great. You're going to enjoy it. But it got to the point that it's boring. And let me tell you how and why. I started with one store. Then I started expanding. So I ended up having 2 stores in New Mexico and 4 stores in Arizona, which was great. I mean, I was producing very good income and a lot of sales. I didn't have that many employees. I only have 35, but that was enough to keep me busy. And through the time, one night I came into my office. I was very tired. And I sat down on my desk. And I remember getting a piece of paper and drawing a circle and said, you know what, I'm in the middle. And I started drawing arrows to myself. I said, okay, so the employees want my attention, the customers want my attention, the vendors want my attention, and the government may not want my attention, but wants my money. And I started drawing all this arrows, and I said, my goodness gracious. At that moment, I realized that I became the slave of what I thought I conquered, you know? So I said, my goodness gracious, I don't have a business. The business had me. So that was the time that really part of the game was not a game anymore. And it's very interesting because I was making very good money. So at that point, I started looking into other games, and I started investing into real estate heavily. And that's how I got into having my own business.
Okay, well, that's, you know, I love what an amazing experience. First of all, you start off with a job. You know, you realize quickly that some bosses aren't made out to be bosses, but they still get the job, right? So you're dealing with all that, and you're thinking, okay, I want to get out and do my own thing. And I know when you talk about, you know, like Robert Kiyosaki, he always talks about how when you run a small business, you're basically just running your own job. You know, I mean, you're still kind of stuck to doing the day-to-day things, you know, and so, but that's the reality of it. And certainly there can be some good money made in that, but you are being, and I like how you had all those arrows, you know, pointing to you, all the different people who either relied on you or requested things from you. And certainly I had to laugh when you said the tax, they don't want to talk to me, but they certainly want my money. You know, we certainly all know that all too well. And it probably doesn't matter what country you live in. But so it's certainly, it's a challenge. And, but having that entrepreneurial spirit and wanting to go out and to do something, not only for yourself, but to take care of your family and everything else. It eventually, I'm assuming, and so you went from doing kind of a communications and that, and then you got into some real estate. What was it that eventually led you kind of to the network marketing industry?
That's a very interesting story, Gary, because since I was so busy, I will get to my office around 5:30, 6 a.m. in the morning, and sometimes leaving my office at 11 p.m. And that I know that is very familiar to someone that owns their own business. And I got to the point of opening a door in the back. So by the time I was leaving, the employees didn't know that I was leaving. Otherwise, if I was trying to get to the front, every single thing was needed at that time. You know what, customer so-and-so wants to see you, this vendor wants to see you, and everything. So at that point, when I had the door in the back, I will get through the back, do my thing in the morning, and I tried to get there early to catch up with the admin that I had to do. And there was a doctor in town, which was a very well-known doctor. And one day I saw that he was driving a Porsche 911 Targa, and I love that car. I said, Doctor, I love your car. And I said, well, if you want to, I can show you how you can get one. I said, really? Let's do it. So I went to his office, and here this doctor got a VHS tape for new generations, a black thing where you can watch movies back in the days, and put it in the VCR. VCR was the thing that used to play those movies. And it was a presentation about a company, an MLM company. And when I saw that, I was like, wow, sounds very interesting. Totally new for me, new concept. I'm telling you, this is 1993. And when I saw that, it's like, yeah, you know what? That could be it. So I said, the doctor says that's my solution. That's the way I'm going to buy the Targa 911 Porsche. Let's do it. So I signed up with him. And my biggest check was maybe $45. So I didn't do much with that company. But I fell in love with the concept. Around that time, I had a partnership that went very bad. I'm not going to say that I lost money, but cost me a lot of money to do that partnership. And I ended up without that money, without the investment. So I said, you know what, with this industry, you don't have to risk that, because I put in thousands and thousands of dollars to be part of this and create something. So I decided to do it, and the doctor will invite me to every single other opportunity he will see. And he became part of the NFL club, which is No Friends Left. He will talk about but this guy, I respect him big time. I mean, and I thank him. Every single time I see him, I said, thank you, doctor, because of you, I found this industry, which I love. And he was very persistent. I mean, when I said persistent, capital letters, and he was so persistent that he knew that I would get to my office at 5:30 in the morning, 6 in the morning. So he will be knocking on my door at that time. He said, Lorenzo, I want to invite you for breakfast. But sure, doctor, let's go. So he will continue. And at one point I said, doctor, no more. There was a company that he invited me for in Arizona, which I loved. It was a product for men, which was amazing for having an erection. So it was selling like pancakes. Long story short, the government closed the company. So I said, you know what, doctor, please don't invite me to anything else. I'm going to continue with my businesses, and that's all I'm going to do. But of course, when you really get a taste of this industry, Gerrit, it's amazing, because if you really like to help people, you love it. So one day he went knocking on my door again. He was inviting me to do bicycle with him and all these other things. And he invited me for breakfast that day, and then he showed me a check and said, Lorenzo, this is the company that I told you don't want to join, but this is going very well. And I look at the check, I look at him, said, doctor, is that company really going that well? Yeah. Do you think I can make 10% of that? Definitely. So long story short, I signed with that company, and I was with that company for almost 10 years. And the reason I'm telling you all this because hopefully this will serve someone that is watching this interview at one point. One day, for some reason, the founders of the company started doing unethical things. And one thing for sure in this universe is if you're not ethical, whatever you build is going to collapse, no matter what. That's for sure. So yes, as a matter of fact, sales started going down, the company going down. And I was doing a meeting in Tijuana, Mexico. And I was telling the people, you know what, this is the opportunity that you want. This is the vehicle that you want to achieve your dreams. And I feel so bad because I said, I'm lying to people. My income has gone from what it was to 10%. And here I am telling the people that this is their opportunity. So I'm lying to them. So I went to the hotel that night and I called the doctor, my sponsor. And I said, you know, doctor, I have an offer that you will not refuse. I want to sell you my business. He asked me how much. And honestly, I gave him just an amount that he was not going to resist. So I said, yes, I want it. So we did the paperwork. He paid me the money and I end up my cycle with that company. So I had that bad feeling about the industry. I said, you know what? No more. And a few months later, this leader that used to be in that same company calls me and say, you know, Lorenzo, I want you to fly to Idaho Falls so you can take a look at this project that we're going to build. We are going big time. I say, sure, let's do it. So I flew to Salt Lake City. I rented a car and drove to Idaho Falls, which for people who's not familiar with that is like 2 hours. So I drive to Idaho Falls. I meet the founders, and then they show me the compensation plan, the product, et cetera, et cetera. And at that time, I met other leaders that they came from other places of the planet as well. And when I was on my way back to Salt Lake City to get my plane back to Arizona, at that time I was living in Arizona, this leader, his name is Rafael Rivera, and I really hope he watched this video one day, because thanks to him, I'll tell you what happened. He asked me, can you give me a ride to the airport in Salt Lake City? I say, sure, let's go. So on our way back to the airport in Salt Lake City, he asked me, what do you think? And I said, you know, I think the founders, the owners of this company have the heart in the right place, but I don't want anything to do with nutritionals. I don't want anything to do with nutritionals at all. And because of my experience that I had before, you know, I said, you know what, I'm not going to go through the same thing. And it's so funny because the guy pulls out of his briefcase that he had and said, you know what, before I left Puerto Rico, they showed me this opportunity. And he gave me a patch. I'm telling you, 2012, he gave me a patch. And I said, what is that? Oh, it's a patch, it's very good. I said, what do you do with that? No, just put it here. So I got the patch, I put it here, very obedient, and I continue driving. So before I returned the rental car, I filled up with gasoline. And when I was out of the car, he asked me, how do you feel? And I said, what do you mean, how do I feel? I feel good. Like, no, with the patch, how do you feel? Oh, I didn't feel anything. So since he reminded me that I was wearing a patch, I got the patch and put it in the trash. So, okay. So no, I don't feel anything. Thank you, man, but no. So I go return the car, leave him at his airline, and he gave me a pamphlet. In that pamphlet, there was Susan Summers' picture. And I respected this lady. Of course, she was an actress and a writer and the whole thing, but the main thing I respected her was because when they told her that she had a situation, that she was going to die and she needed to do X, Y, and Z, she refused and she handled it in an alternative way. So she deserves my respect for that. So when I saw her pictures, I said, wow, if she's into this, must be very interesting. And it was a technology product. but I have a false datum with me. I have this totally false data. I have the data that any company that does technology in this industry will not last. And the reason why I had that false data is because I would observe other companies that they were coming with other technologies, and then the technology was going so fast that the company will die. So I said, well, but this technology looks different. So I didn't do much. I go back to my office and I get the pamphlet and put it on my pending pile. And yes, it was a pending pile. A lot of things to do there.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't do anything else with it. But it's like amazing when there's a bigger power that really wants you to see this. One day, another doctor, this was a cardiology surgeon in Scottsdale, Arizona. He calls me and says, hey, Lorenzo, I want to have lunch with you. Let's catch up and the whole thing. I said, sure. So we are having lunch. And he says, after lunch, I want you to go to my clinic that I have in Scottsdale. I want to show you something. This is Scottsdale, Arizona. So I went to his clinic and he shows me the patches. Says, Lorenzo, this is the medicine of the future. I laugh. I get a sleeve of patches. I pull a sleeve and I say, really, doctor? You're going to start selling patches? You're making hundreds of thousands of dollars with your clinics and you're going to start selling patches? I don't understand. And besides that, I used this 2012 and it didn't work. I used it here, didn't work. Which I was not lying to him. I used it for 2 hours and I didn't feel anything. Now, it doesn't mean that it didn't work. I didn't feel anything. So, and I was laughing at him. So long story short, he said, well, you know what? I truly see that this is going to help a lot of people. So, okay, I signed up. I signed up with him, didn't do much at all. I got the package and I ordered a silver package. Never use a product. Never, ever use the product at that moment, okay? So this doctor called me one day and said, Lorenzo, there is Roy Surgiano and Rick DeLuca coming to Arizona and they're going to do a demonstration. Why don't you come and take a look? I said, sure, let's do it. Because one of the things that I always have done is observe, which is the best thing we all can do. Because there's so much data all over the place but when you observe, it's powerful. So I was at that demonstration and the doctor asked me, do you happen to know anybody with pain? I said, definitely, I do know somebody with pain. And I knew this gentleman who was the international director for Gerber Foods. He had a very bad situation. So I called him and said, you know what, the doctor says that this and that, why don't you come with me? I said, sure. I mean, if you tell me to eat whatever, I'll eat it. I want a solution for it. He was taking heavy narcotics. So long story short, we go to that demonstration. And what I saw on that demonstration was amazing for me. That's why I'm a true believer of demonstration. I always tell my teams, don't talk, demo. Do not talk, demonstrate. And when I saw what was happening, I was like, wow, this is truly amazing. And of course, my friend had a relief and I was always asking him, are you sure you're not lying to me? Yeah. I didn't have any pain. And as a matter of fact, I never used the pain patches until 2019 that I broke 2 ribs. But before, I never used them. So that night, I was blown away with what I saw. So I approached Roy Surgiano. I said, do you mind meeting in the morning for coffee? I would like to see the opportunity behind this. Sure. So I meet with Roy Surgiano the next day, and he started drawing. And as a matter of fact, I have the pictures of that, and showing me acupuncture points and the whole thing. And I was like, oh my goodness gracious, this is so complicated. This is so complicated. Because one thing I knew back then, and I know now, if it is for people, if it is not easy, simple, and people can do it, doesn't matter how amazing your product is. It's not going to go nowhere. So I said, you know what? This is too complicated. I was almost under a level of depression there because I said, nobody's going to be able to do this. So I didn't do much. I continued being there, but I didn't do much. In 2015, the same doctor, tells me, Lorenzo, I'm going to the convention in San Diego. Why don't you come with us? I'm like, sure. I went to that convention in 2015, and it was something very interesting because, conventions really make you see the big picture. It didn't do anything on me. Now, I want to clarify this. It wasn't because the convention was not great. The convention was great. My awareness level was so low. My awareness level was like, I don't want to say shut down, but it was so low. 2015, I was going through a lot of drama in my life, a lot of lessons in life. And I was getting chapter 7. I went bankrupt, I was divorced, et cetera, a lot of drama. So obviously, I was focusing all my attention on the problems and not in the solutions. I was playing the victim's game and poor me, the government has done this to me, et cetera, which didn't work. Later on, I found out, you know what, that doesn't work. What am I going to do to fix and change that condition? And it's amazing because whatever is happening through your life, if you are complaining, be careful because it's not going to fix anything. Or if you're blaming somebody else, it's not going to fix anything. But at a time when I said, okay, how can I change this condition? At that moment, the answers started appearing. And it was in 2015, after the divorce, I moved to New York City, and New York City is not one of the least expensive places to live. So yeah, I started sharing a room with many people. But it was to a point that I said, you know what, I don't like this. So I said, what can I do? I didn't want it to start another business. I didn't want it to have a job. So I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to see which companies are there so I can get a vehicle and run with it. But it's very hard. It's very hard when you're choosing. That's why I recommend you, if you have prospects, be patient with them. Be patient with them. Maybe their awareness level is not to a good point, or maybe they don't see what they're looking for yet. Be patient. Be patient with them. It's very funny because we're living in a society that is a microwave society. We want to press a button, boom. Oh, the prospect already said yes, and he's building his network right away. They're like, amazing if that happens to you, but unfortunately, it didn't happen to me. It took me a while for me to really open my eyes and see what we had in our hands with LifeWave. Now, let me tell you what happened then. At that point, I'm thinking, I said, okay, what companies are? And then I started seeing different companies. And I remember LifeWave. I said, wow, that was amazing. That what happened that night with the demonstration was amazing. But the business is so complicated. Nobody's going to be able to do it. And suddenly, when you focus on solutions show up. So I continually go to sleep and say, okay, what is the solution? What is the solution? And one night, well, it was around 2 a.m. in the morning, I wake up and said, what if I send an email to the inventor and see if he can give me 10 minutes of his time and I can hear from him? I did that. So I wrote an email and, sir, I acknowledge you for what you're doing for humankind. I would love to have 10 minutes of your time. Luckily enough, he responded. So I immediately got a plane ticket, flew to San Diego, met with him. And I'll tell you, what I got in that meeting was what I really needed to align my purpose with his huge purpose that he has. I said, you know what, I can definitely be part of this because his purpose is to really help humankind. And it was very interesting because, I had very precise questions to ask him because I only had 10 minutes. And when I see the car he's driving, I ask him, like, why are you driving this car? You could drive a $250,000 car. And it was amazing when he told me, what for? I said, wow. He told me, Lorenzo, I already went through that stage. Now what I want to do is way bigger than that. So long story short, I really aligned with his purpose. And since that time, I started running with LifeWave, and it's been a blessing after blessing every single day. I hope that answered your question, Gerrit.
Yeah, and I just love, there's so many tidbits from that story that a few I want to actually bring up, because first of all, you were very skeptical, and I love how you wore the patch for a few hours and you threw it away. You know, we've all been in those circumstances before, right? And I hope that everyone that's listening is kind of grasping kind of a little bit of some of these really important elements of it, because we all know people who are skeptical. You know, and sometimes they're ready, but the timing has to be right. And that skepticism didn't just end when the patch came off, but it was the products were maybe too hard or too difficult to explain. And certainly when you're doing demonstrations, and if you really understand how to do all that, it can become a little like, oh, that's a lot of stuff. But certainly, you know, and then when it comes to the business, you know, trying to help people understand and you know how that all works and how to build it, you know, it can also be, especially if you're new to it, it can be a little confusing. And so, but it's one of the things that I loved about that, though, is what got you to the point where you're open to listening. You know, and actually, I think for what we did here throughout is that, what did you say? You said, I was an observer. You liked to observe. So you're willing to observe, even though you were skeptical, you know, and I think always being willing to do that. And then the question you asked yourself is, how can I change? And I think that's something we always want other people to change. We don't always necessarily want ourselves to change. And so I think when we have that mindset of saying to ourselves, what can I do to change? Now we can start really making a difference, you know? And then you kept asking yourself, what was the solution? And I love that the solution ended up being you talking to David, because I think, you know, I felt a connection to LifeWave because of the technology and what I had read about the company when I first got here. But I'll be honest, it wasn't until I had a chance to meet David and really get a feel for who he was that made me realize that this is actually the place that I need to be, and not just for a short time in my career. I would love to be here for a long, you know, for the rest of my career if I could. Obviously, you know, but as we look at it, being able to align purpose, and I think that that's something that I want to, as we go forward with kind of the topic of heart to heart, you know, sales. It comes back to the purpose. You know, what is the purpose? Why are we here? What is it that we're doing? And, you know, and so, you know, and when I look at kind of the results from when you really kind of made the decision to get moving, you know, you grew your business very quickly, you know, but as you did so, what were some of the key elements, would you say, especially now that you had that connection with David and understood the purpose? What was it that really then helped you to take that next step to really get into action?
Well, I immediately went into action. And I made many mistakes. And when I say many, I mean capital many. And one of the biggest mistakes, it's making the same mistake that I did with the other company. And I'll tell you two of the mistakes, because if I can save you a headache, I'm going to be very happy. The first mistake is making a huge, long presentations. In the other company, I was invited by a doctor. So I started doing all this huge, long presentations. And I bought a computer, a projector, and I started doing the presentation. Guess what? Without me telling them, 5 of my direct sponsors bought a computer and a projector. Started doing the same thing. So if you're new in LifeWave, be careful. Don't do what other people are not going to be able to do. Otherwise, you're not going to have that duplication. So every single action that you're doing, ask yourself, is everybody or most of my team going to be able to do this? If the answer is yes, continue, because that's going to be an action that is going to produce good results. But if it's something that is only you or a few people are going to be able to do, it may not be the route to go. So I made that mistake. And here I did it again. And you know, I'm going to call it Rambo syndrome. And for the new generation, Rambo was a guy that did movies that always will came out with 2 shotguns and he'll start shooting left and right and kill everybody, and he was the hero. So guess what I did? When I asked the doctor, so I see how you do it. I think I can do it. And he will start talking about the science and every single thing. And then he will do another part with a compensation plan. So I will do the same. So I will get a prospect. I will tell them, you know what? Oh my God, that technology, this is and suddenly I shot them with my right hand. And then I'll tell them, but wait a minute, you know, the compensation plan is so good. I started shooting them with both of them. So long story short, I killed many prospects, many prospects with that Rambo syndrome. So I'm sharing this with you because hopefully you don't do that. There's no need. There's no need. If you want to be very successful in this business, I'm going to recommend you something that I read in a free book. You can download it from the internet. The book is called The Way to Happiness. The Way to Happiness has several different precepts. And there's a precept number 17 that says, be competent. And it's going to give you 3 elements to be competent. Very simple, very simple. But I'll tell you, you do that, you're going to be as successful as you want. The first element is for you to look. Look in what your sponsor is doing. Look in what your line of sponsorship is doing. Look in what the successful leaders are doing. Just look by yourself. And then learn. That's the second one. Learn. Okay, I can do this. And then practice. Okay? Now, I see a lot of people that they look a little bit, but they try to learn a lot. Oh, I want to learn how that works. Why? Do you know how your cell phone works? Oh, yeah, you press a button. No, you really know how that signal goes to the tower, comes back? No, I don't. But you use it every single day. So go ahead and do that. So I strongly recommend the third part. Practice, 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 and practice on what you sponsor is telling you to do or what you observe that is working for you. And I'll tell you, you're going to be very successful. Okay? So I'm going to go back to the second mistake that I did. And the second mistake that I did is focusing on sick people. Horrible mistake. Horrible mistake. Hurts me just to remember. And I did it twice. I did it on my other company, and I did it again on this company. So you know what? What's the protocol for X? What is the protocol for Y? Don't forget about that. There's no need. That is only going to slow the growth of your organization. Why? Because it's very simple for new distributors, new brand partners to get it into the plain doctor syndrome, which we shouldn't do. You know, there's no need. If somebody's asking you a question about health, okay, call your doctor, ask him. But maybe you want to send this link to your doctor so he knows this technology and maybe he can recommend you something. But don't go in the route of recommending yourself. It's a huge liability, huge liability. But I learned my lesson, so I changed. Once I changed that, it was a blessing. It was a blessing. I started doing it simple, and it's been a blessing. So I'm sharing those 2 big mistakes that I've done out of the many mistakes. So hopefully one of you can save yourself some headaches. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Again, just amazing information as as I'm taking notes as well, because it is very good information. A couple of things though. I love the mistakes, because I think the reality is we all make mistakes, and understanding where we made them, and if we can kind of help someone else not make the same mistakes is invaluable. So, I like the idea of don't do what others won't do. Because if they can't do it, or it's going to be really difficult for them, and so keeping it really simple for people to be able to come in and do what you can duplicate, and work hard doing over and over and over again, and you can get the results versus trying to be very complicated. And then maybe that can work for you, but it can't work for everyone. And that's where the challenge becomes in, so I love that. And I also love the term Rambo syndrome. That's actually the first time I've heard it, but it's it is very true. And we certainly don't want to be killing any of our prospects. And I mean, I know that was figuratively, but certainly, that's, but I love the look, learn, and practice. So, as we come from this, though, what we're really talking about is when we're introducing someone to LifeWave and the benefits of the products, we can get all caught up into the details of exactly what patches are doing and how to make them work and where to put them and everything else. But sometimes the key is just sticking the patch on, this is just getting started, and maybe leaving it on for a little more than 2 hours, but I think as what we've heard from you, but one of the things I'd love to kind of dig into as you go and are trying to get someone to become interested, what are some of the key things that you do, at that kind of initial stages, so that it's not just here, try the patches and have a great experience with it, and good luck, versus, hey, we know these patches will work, and help you, but this is what, and to kind of help them through that process, So what is it that you do as you get started? And of course, we know that you have a large team. So, but with regards to maybe he's kind of a newer person, and we'll kind of jump into a little bit more into how do you help the team as well. But go ahead and let's start with what are some of the key things you would recommend when just kind of getting started and introducing a new person to what LifeWave has to offer?
Definitely. I could give you a few, but I'm gonna give you two. The first is to recommend this individual to make it simple, to not complicate things. This is simple. To demonstrate our technology is amazing. You guys have done a great job. We have an amazing website. We have tools. We have an InTouch app. We have tools to really promote our business. It's very simple to really promote our business. You said something in the beginning, people don't like to talk in public. It's okay. I tell people, you don't have to. Can you press a button on your phone? Sure. Share videos. Let the tool do the job for you. I will always tell that to new people. Make sure you download your InTouch app. Let's do it. Send me a message. Okay, perfect. You know how to do it. Just do it. And then follow up. And something very important is keep yourself statistics. How many videos are you sharing a day? How many people are you following up per day? How many new prospects you're contacting per day? Because that is going to give you how your business is going. Keep very simple stats. Okay, I'm going to do whatever is real to you. I'm going to do 5 calls per day. Perfect. Make sure you're disciplined and do 5 calls per day. Okay, I'm going to do 5 follow-ups. Whatever is real to you. I'm not going to impose my reality on you. It's whatever is real to you. The second recommendation I will give you, and it's been a blessing for me with any team, is this: respect any person's reality. Do not impose your reality on other people. I know how amazing this opportunity is. I know how amazing this technology is. I know how blessed we are with the founder, the executive team, and everybody in the team. But that's my reality. If I go and impose that reality on Lorenzo McGrew at 2012, I will not go anywhere. So make sure you find out, where is your prospect? Is your prospect interested right now in only trying the product? Let them try it. Is your prospect only interested on giving them the business a try? Let's do it. But don't impose a business on a consumer or vice versa. So just identify. And in order to do that, you don't need to talk. Just look. Just look and listen. Once you are able to look and listen to your prospect, amazing things happen, because now you understand the reality. I want to clarify this. I'm not saying for you to buy into his reality. No. I'm just saying respect it and understand it. And I always give this example to my teams, and I'm going to give it to everybody else because it really helped me a lot. When I have somebody in front of me, I tell them, what do you see? I said, 5 fingers. Good. I see 5 fingers. What else do you see? I see nails. At that point, we can discuss and fight for hours because I don't see any nails. So when you can see the same thing with different realities. It's amazing when you understand that. So just find out what the reality of your prospect is and do not impose your reality on them. Now, if you are so blessed that you found someone that is vibrating in your own same level of consciousness than you are, and you guys can understand each other, beautiful. Now you can talk the same language, but usually that's not the case. I mean, I'll tell you, when they presented this to me several times, I didn't see much. I didn't see the light because my awareness level was so low. Now, another recommendation that I will give, look for people emotionally higher on the tone scale. If you have a prospect that is always mad, always upset, criticizing the government, criticizing the X, Y, and Z, his wife, his kids, et cetera, I have news for you. I mean, he may be a very good leader, but I don't know how much he's going to be able to create. Because at the end of the day, growth in your organization is creation. And when people is very low emotionally, they can destroy things very fast. So the beauty with this business that you and I have is that you can invite whoever you want. You don't have to work with who you don't want. And I have people in my teams that they may not like to work with me for X, Y, and Z. I hope they don't hate me, but they may not like to work with me. And I respect that. That's their reality. And I let them know that I'm here whenever they need me. And I let them work. Now, there are other people that, you know what, definitely, I want to work with you. Good. That's a different reality. Let's work with that individual. So it's super important for you, if you're new or you're already a brand partner, to understand that every single individual has a different reality. It's a different way of seeing things. So maybe for you, you already cognited, you already realize, oh my God, this is amazing what we have. But maybe your downline is not at that point yet. So we just need to be patient and I use something very simple. I tell my teams, I walk with whoever wants to walk. I run with whoever wants to run. I fly with whoever wants to fly. And I remember the only person that has told me I will fly when I said that was Mary Hollinsted. She said, I'll fly, Lorenzo. I said, good. And she has. So there's going to be several different realities. But the good news is you can just understand and work according to their reality. I hope that helps.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think when we talk about the idea of heart-to-heart sales, I think you just explained exactly how to do it. Because it's all about, keeping it simple, helping the person understand in a very basic way. Because if we're trying to make it complicated, sometimes we do it to make ourselves feel good about ourselves more than we're actually trying to help the person sometimes. But keeping it simple, I think, is important. But also, I can't even emphasize enough how important this one is, and I love it, and that is respect the other person's reality. You don't have to buy into it, but you certainly have to respect it. But understanding where they're coming from, all of a sudden puts you in their shoes, and now you actually can connect with what their needs are, and so that you're actually going to help them versus just trying to help yourself, if that makes sense. And so I really believe when we're talking about just a normal sales versus what we would consider heart-to-heart sales is really that the connection that we make with them, and then the ability and the willingness to be able to help even after they've maybe tried the products, or maybe they've come in and they've tried the business, and maybe they haven't had the success, or maybe they didn't get what they wanted, and maybe they've even taken a step away, but they know that you're always there to help, and that you're always going to be there, so that they're not alone. And then more than likely, then they'll have a chance to come back. And so I think I think you explained it much better than I could. That's why I'm just repeating what you're saying. But it really is amazing, so respecting them where they're at. Now, when you have someone as they're getting started and you're starting to, and I love that also, I think you said Mary Hollingshead was the one that said that I want to fly. I think everyone is looking for the flyer, right? and sometimes we'll find them, and sometimes when they come in, they'll be a walker, but by the time, but give them a little time and they will be a flyer. And you can't really prejudge where people are going to be. But when you're looking at your team and as you're taking, so now that you've got a number of people started and you're getting to grow, how do you keep that heart-to-heart connection with your team, and help them to grow and to develop into leaders themselves?
Amazing question. And I'm going to give you a short answer. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it. The key is communication. I mean, do not ever ignore any communication from your downline, ever. Doesn't matter what it is. It's their own reality. Just acknowledge. And just tell them, if you don't feel like answering that, just tell them, you know what, I'd rather not answer this. Beautiful, but acknowledge. I will definitely recommend two things. One is always communicate with your teams and acknowledge their communication. And never, ever invalidate them. Never invalidate them. Because that really hurts them. And one of the syndromes that I've seen in this industry is that people leave companies too early because they believe it's not for them. They believe it's not for them, and they start blaming it on the company, the upline, compensation plan. But they didn't realize that, you know what, they didn't feel to the level that they were able to do it. So to answer your question, what I really strive for in the beginning is for people to understand that they can do it. You can do it. Oh my God, that's science. Forget about the science. Do this. Can you do this? Oh yeah, okay. How many times can you do that? X amount of time. Okay, good. Go ahead and do it. Now, can you show your team to do that? Sure. Okay. Go ahead and show your team that. Now, this gets to a point, the greatest thing of this industry is just a people business. It is the biggest blessing. And we can definitely connect heart to heart. And that's the only way to do it. The biggest challenge that we have in this industry is that it's a people business. Because every single individual has his own reality. You have no idea how many times I tell someone, you know what, I recommend you to do it this way. No. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pay this. I'm going to pay that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I never invalidate it. Okay, good. Go ahead and do it and let me know how that goes. Because that's important for they to understand, you know what, try it. And then if it works, great. If not, let's go to a drawing board and let's start again. Because it's so important for new people to understand that this is simple to do. We tend to overcomplicate things. This is simple to do. I'll tell you one thing. If someone joins your business and he does only a few things, he is going to be successful. Even if he doesn't understand photobiomodulation, he doesn't understand acupuncture points, he doesn't understand X, Y, and Z, he doesn't need to. We don't get paid to study, to be honest with you. We don't get paid to analyze things. We get paid to market. This is marketing. And I'll tell you one thing where I learned it from. Chuck Michael, he's one of my uplines. I learned it from him. That guy didn't even know how to place the patches. I said, oh my God, this guy was doing so simple actions and he started growing. You do not need to learn every single thing to do this business. Just discipline yourself to do simple action that produces results. And the great news that we have, it's the vast majority of human beings that are in this planet need and want what you and I have. You're offering the benefits, and they are buying the benefits to help them and to help their families. And that's what I recommend you to do. If you do that, everything is going to change. Because I always say that our creator had a huge sense of humor when he created us, because we don't like for people to sell to us. You go to a store, you walk into the store, even though you already know what you want, somebody approaches you and says, "Can I help you?" I say, "No, I'm just looking." We don't want that feeling. We don't like to be sold, but we love purchasing stuff. We love buying. So it's very interesting. So get to the point that people don't feel that you're selling to them. Just share the benefits, share the blessings that we have. And you're going to get to the point that now they want to buy it. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, I think that key right there, and I think it's a super important element. And that is, we hate to be sold to, but we love to buy, and that is, who doesn't feel good after they just bought something? I mean, there's certainly a level of that, but and I think one of the things that you touched on, and I think you've mentioned it probably 4 or 5 times throughout this, and that is doing the simple things every day and consistently every day. One of my favorite quotes, and I always slaughter it, but I can never remember who actually said it. But, if everything that we could have learned today, if we didn't teach you the importance of consistency, then nothing else we teach you matters. And I think, exactly that, understanding how we consistently try to reach out to people on a heart-to-heart level, making that connection so that they just feel that we know that we actually care about them. It's not about what's in it for me, it's what's in it for them, and making sure that they feel and know that. Then all of a sudden, now we're in a different environment where they don't feel like they're being sold to, but they certainly want to buy what it is that we have. And so I love that. Now we're literally coming up 3 minutes to the top of the hour. Usually I like to take a chance to, answer a few questions. We don't really have time for that right now, but Lorenzo, as we get going, is there any last little thoughts you have before we go?
Yes, please do not miss this opportunity. If you don't see what I see, give yourself some time. Read whatever you have to read, listen to whoever you want to listen to, but make sure you see the huge opportunity that we have in our hands. Okay? And I'm going to give you a recommendation. If you're new or you've been in the industry for a while, go to your upline and ask him 2 questions. Ask her or him 2 questions. Tell me the 5 things that you have done that produces good results to your organization. And tell me the 5 things that you wouldn't recommend to do. And then once you have the data with you, you look at it, you learn, and you practice the things that has been working for your upline. And let's go ahead and produce. We have such a blessing because every single individual, every single spiritual being that is walking out there that has a body like this, and that's the only way that you can be in this planet, needs and wants the benefits of the technology that you and I have. We are so blessed. So I invite you to be part of this, and let's take this company to $1 billion company. Thank you very much for the invitation, Gerrit.
Thank you, Lorenzo. So as we finish up today, I want to go back to a quote that's, I think, Lorenzo, I believe this is your quote, and that with LifeWave, we have diamonds in our hands to help others. And that is 100% true. And Lorenzo, you are definitely one of the diamonds here at LifeWave, and we certainly value everything that you do to help us, and certainly value your time today as well. We want to thank everyone for being on today. Also, it's certainly been a pleasure to spend this time with you. It is going to be replayed again tonight at 6 o'clock Pacific time. We look forward to having you, for those of you who can be on, to hop back on, or invite others to be on as well, to learn from Lorenzo, who has just an amazing job today on sharing some of his heart with us. So again, Lorenzo, thank you so much. And everyone, we'll look forward to catching up with all of you very soon.